Fire Radio.
Fire burning in my soul.
Anytime, anywhere.
Fire burning in my soul.
Anywhere. On Fire Radio. Anytime, anywhere. On Fire Radio. Anytime, anywhere.
Our journeys through education take many routes from our early years to university. Academic Crossroads is here to explore key elements to help equip you along the way. So join us and our special guests as we also discuss the expected and unexpected paths, including all the challenges and triumphs while gathering your academic top tips.
This is Academic Crossroads with your host, Dr. Leanne J. Adeyemi.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Academic Crossroads here on Fire Radio. So I hope you've all had a blessed day. It is Monday, the first day of the working week, first day of the school week. So I hope you had a good first day back after a nice weekend. And the sun is coming out as well. There was a bit of hailstone today. I don't know if anyone else saw it, but there was a bit of hailstone today. So the sun is we'll say it's painted in the sky for now. We'll say it's painted. It's not quite warming us up just yet. It's painted, but it's out anyway. So hopefully you're able to get out in the sun, even if it was just for a little while. But good evening Stella, good evening Susie, good evening Mama Val. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for joining me here in the studio. And for today on Academic Crossroads, we will be focusing. We're going back to our early years. So we'll be focusing on elements within childhood development. And these are some key tools for learning. So whether you are an educator, whether you are a parent, an auntie, an uncle, or you work with children in any capacity, these key tools for learning are so pivotal to making sure that the little ones, the children's learning environments, which we know are everywhere, right? But to make sure their learning environments are actually environments that are helping them to thrive. So please share the link and spread the word, and I will be back in just one moment.
On Fire Radio. Radio. Anytime, anywhere. On Fire Radio.
Fire burning in my soul.
Anytime, anywhere.
Fire burning in my soul. Fire, fire, fire.
On Fire Radio.
Fire burning in my soul.
Anytime, anywhere.
Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere.
On Fire Radio. Anytime, anywhere. On Fire Radio.
Fire burning in my soul.
This is Academic Crossroads.
Fire burning in my soul. Fire, fire, fire. Fire burning in my soul. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere.
This is on Fire Radio. Crossroads. Anytime, anywhere.
So good evening and welcome back. Hey Bookie, thank you for joining us. So today we are focusing on key tools for learning. So like I said, whether you are a parent, an educator, you work with young children in any capacity, today we will be looking at key tools for learning. Now, when our children go to, especially in the early years, when our children go to nursery, they might be nursery, preschool, when they go even to reception as well, and then they're starting school, we don't really have a say, right, in their learning environments. We don't have a say in what the nursery maybe puts up or doesn't put up in the classrooms. And for many of us, it may actually be that we're not actually sure what is going on and what is happening in those environments. What do our children play with all day? Because when children are younger, they learn so much through play. And so the environments that they are in are really set up around opportunities to play and develop through play as well. And it also makes it fun. You're often, if you've ever spoken to a child that has gone into year one, one I was actually just speaking to on Sunday, and they said, but Auntie Leanne, year one's not fun anymore. And I was asking them, but why? Why is it not fun? They said, we can't play. It's just work. So the environment really changes. It really changes as children progress in their schooling. And Taddy, you've asked, is this episode for uncles too? It is for everyone. Aunties, uncles, cousins, no matter who you are, because, you know, the responsibility of the children is more than just the parents. Everybody is there to support and guide and develop the children as they grow, right? So Taddy, uncles are, this one's for you, yeah? This one's for you too. So we can't actually decide what goes into those environments, but actually the contents of those environments and what teachers and educators decide, and even if it may be a childminder as well, what they decide to put inside those environments is highly guided by what is termed areas of interest. Now, these areas of interest are key tools for these environments, and the research side of things sets them up within 10 areas. So we'll be going through those today. We'll see how many we can get through. Hopefully we are able to get through the majority, if not all. But while they're often in official settings, and we perceive learning environments to be the nursery, to be their reception class or their school, but actually, like I've mentioned before, children are learning everywhere at home. They spend so much time at home before they even go into those educational settings. And for many as well, some may remain at home right up until 3. Some children will go to nursery a bit earlier, but they still have a significant time at home. And so there is so much that we as parents can do in order to facilitate their learning so that our children can thrive. And we can take a lot from these as well. We can take a lot from what they're doing in their nursery settings, and these key areas of interest are something that we can actually replicate in our homes. Now, I know that not everybody has necessarily a whole room for a whole playroom for their children. I know I don't. So we are definitely getting out the resources in my house and putting them away once we're finished. But whether you do have a whole play area, you might have a section of your house or an area that actually everything is set up. And for others like myself, it may be that we are bringing out the resources and putting them away. But whatever the environment and whichever way you are doing it and whatever way works for you, then today we will be exploring ways you can implement these areas of interest and how they can be beneficial for your children. Now, as we go through these, it is important for you to consider your child's developmental needs, your child's interests as well, because you may find an activity that you think, oh, my child would really like that, but if it was done in this way, run with it. Okay. A lot of things. And for those that are parents, and if you have maybe children that are a little bit older as well, then you'll know that children's interests, one, are different from child to child. So what one of your children might enjoy, another might not enjoy so much, and they might like something else. But also, children's interests can change literally overnight. One day they may be all about running. They just want to run everywhere in the house, all over the house. They want to go in the garden and run. That may last for a day. The next day they're still interested in it. And then after that, all they want to do is like build or something. So children's interests are changing all the time. So just keep an eye out for that as well. And then also adapt what we go through today in order to best suit your child's interests and what they're finding fun and exciting at the time. Okay, because we don't really want play to feel like a chore, right? We don't want it to feel like you have to do this thing right here, right now. We want them to enjoy it so that actually their developmental experience as well is something that they enjoy and really engage in as they go. So good evening, Tendai. Thank you for joining us here too. So for our key tools for learning. Now, like I mentioned, there are 10, but we'll see how many we are able to get through. So in a lot of educational settings, you will notice that they have blocks, whether it's something like mega blocks that fit together, or whether it's just cubes that they can maybe put on top of each other so they can stack them. But building blocks, whether they're big, they're medium size, they are small, but whatever the size, they are actually a great way for children to explore the things around them and how they work and how they fit together. Because if you think with blocks, they can build things up, they can break things down, they can fill them up as well as empty them. They can stretch, they can reach. At the moment, my children are really into building blocks as tall as they can and building the highest tower. They want it to be taller than them. They want it to be taller than daddy. So they're trying to build the blocks as high as possible. And it gets to a point where you are having to then pick them up so that they can fit them on top. Or they're climbing on the sofa to try and fit them on top. But also that is improving their balance as well. So the opportunities are endless. It's a really, really great way for children to get creative as well, because while sometimes they may want to build towers, they also may want to build animals or cars. That's another firm favorite as well. And one thing I love about building blocks is that actually they can be done almost anywhere. So whether you have a big space and you can get all of the blocks out, put them all over the floor, or it may be that actually at the time, it's not time for us to take all the toys out and spread them all over the living room. But in actual fact, it's time for us to just sit down at the table. Sit down at the table, build something nicely. Maybe you've got something to do, so we need an activity to entertain them. But it may be that you switch it up sometimes as well. So sometimes we can build the big towers, but sometimes we also need to sit down at the table and do some building there as well. So building blocks are really, really, really good. They're good for their fine motor skills as well, because you may have smaller blocks like Duplo blocks, and so they're a bit more tricky to fit together and pull apart. But then, like I mentioned earlier, you may have mega blocks as well, so they're a bit easier for the younger ones where their fine motor skills are still developing, and so putting smaller bits together isn't as easy. But if they've got really large chunky blocks, then actually sticking those together is more simple and something that they can achieve and have success in. So those are the types of things to think about with blocks. And what can they build? You might think, well, we've had towers. we've had towers. It may be that you reenact stories from the Bible which have towers or big or small things actually that are built as well. So it may be that actually you get them to build the walls of Jericho. I know for my kids, they started trying to build the lion's den as well from Daniel, or it may even be that they want to build the ark. So where you have different sized blocks, it may facilitate different things that can be built. But all in all, there is so much to do. You can do simple structures. You can do more complex structures if you have older ones as well. And for some of the really, really little ones, like my youngest, she's just happy to sit there and stack maybe like 3 or 4 blocks and then come and show me. And we're all celebrating because she's built something, right? So make sure you celebrate the things that they have built, and the things that they come to show you. So Shah, you said building blocks are fun until you find one in your shoe. That's the only disclaimer. I think the only disclaimer is that when you do take them all out, they may end up everywhere. They may end up everywhere. So if you've ever had a block in your shoe, you know what that feels like. So make sure you keep your eyes open for where they are ending up. Tendai, you said building blocks get really competitive in Sunday school. So that's a great point as well. You can do competitions with them. Who can build the highest tower? Who can build something the fastest? Or if you want a bit of teamwork, then maybe you as the parent can have built something, and then you have to get the kids to work together, and they have to replicate what you've built. So the opportunities with building blocks are truly, truly endless. Taddy, you've said Malachi has square magnet blocks, and one exercise we go through is a speed exercise to see all the different things he can build with the limited number of squares. So that's an amazing one actually as well. And magnet blocks, they're really good. They don't require so much sort of like precision on connecting them, but they are an excellent way to, especially 3D structures. If you're building 3D structures, they are an excellent way to do it. But I think that speed exercise, I have to take that one home, Taddy. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that with us today. So Stephen, you've also said Sunday school has great engineers and future architects. So I feel like we need some we need some ideas from Sunday school teachers on these. What are you doing? So as we go through the list, let us know how, if these are incorporated into what you are doing. And if you have any examples, like Taddy, thank you for sharing, then I'm sure everyone will be happy to receive them. So that's our first stop. So our first stop has been building blocks. And as we move on through our areas of interest, then we go on to dramatic play. Now, role play is a great way for children to use their imaginations, for children to try out something new as well, whether it's on their own, whether it's with siblings or friends, or even parents. Some of us, we have to get involved from the beginning, right? You can't just send off the kids and get them to start. They want you involved. They want you in the story. They want to see you acting. Sometimes they're like, "Mommy, Daddy, can you do this?" Or "Auntie, Uncle, can you play this person?" And for others, they want you to encourage them in what it is that you'll be doing. So, but dramatic play is an amazing way to develop their imagination and to try out new things as well, and using their language skills and developing their language skills and communication skills as well. And so with dramatic play, one thing that can really help children with their Shah, I feel like you've been a different character many a time, many a time. But one thing with dramatic play that really helps and can encourage children is props. Now, you have some children that may want more realistic props. So, for example, if they are cooking, then they want you to get the bowl, they want the spoon, they want to like mix it in the bowl. Or, you know, if they're, I don't know, they might be typing something, for example, so they would like a keyboard if possible. And you have others that are happy to grab anything and turn it into whatever they want it to be. And it may be that they grab the spoon and begin to sing because it is their microphone. They are teaching, they are going to preach, and they are using that spoon as their microphone for the time being because that is what they have. Or it may be that actually they have pick up a pillow, and that pillow is now their steering wheel for the next hour and a half. They are driving. They're driving somewhere. Sometimes they'll tell you where they're driving. Sometimes they're taking the roads and they're not sure. But that pillow is definitely their steering wheel for the next hour and a half. And so whichever way it works out, and whatever you know your child is interested in as well, it is a really good way to help them develop their skills. They develop their expression and communication as well. It's also a good way to look at the roles, the role dynamics within what they're doing and the roles that they choose, and also sometimes the roles that maybe the younger siblings are given by the older siblings as well. So, Caroline, you said when you're trying to take a nap on the sofa and being pulled down to join in the game. Exactly, Caroline, you know this one all too well. And actually, Steph, you said, I've witnessed baptism, school for Christian development and worship sets firsthand. Trust me. They're even, sometimes, they're even telling you, I can't hear you. They're telling you, I can't hear you. Is that all you've got? Is that all you've got to praise God in their worship sets? Oh, in royal robes, non-stop for 20 minutes. When they have a firm favorite song as well, they are in. They're in. They're not moving off that song. They'll even tell you, Mummy, I'll start, and then you follow after. And if you're not doing the ad-libs right or the harmonies, then they're definitely letting you know as they go. So, but it's all part of it, and it really does help children, and it helps build their confidence. It helps them in terms of actually understanding what they're seeing as well, and it's a good way for them to also show you what they've taken from what they've seen. So whereby maybe if certain things you need to help guide them on as well, or if they've perceived something to be in a certain way but actually they need sort of steering towards maybe what is correct, because maybe they have got something that they've perceived and it isn't quite right, then it's an amazing way for you to then help guide them and direct them to what is correct. So Taddy, you said dramatic play is interesting. You get to really see their understanding of different concepts, but also it's time to guide their understanding. So exactly, literally, Taddy, literally that. So when your children are there and they want to do drama, they want to lead a teaching, they want to do baptisms and things like that, just observe, take time. Sometimes it gets loud, right? Sometimes it gets noisy and you just want to sit in a bit of peace and quiet. But honestly, utilize the time and see their perception, see their perception on things, and see what actually they've taken from it. Because as much as they may see something, they're still young, so they're still developing their understanding. Like even as adults, you have to think like, how many things do you hear or maybe see that you actually have to still sit and go and study to truly understand? And that's with what you've experienced, that's with your understanding. And sometimes it's the experience and the understanding that we already had that actually makes us not understand something properly. But when we do hear something, we still have to go and study and do that bit. So let's not do our children a disservice by dismissing those things, but actually embrace it and have the loud noise for the little while while it's there. Have the loud noise, because I'm forever told that this time doesn't come back. We don't get this time back, right? And when the children are grown and old by the grace of God, we'll be like, oh, I miss when they were, 3, when they were 2, 3 and 4 running around. They wanted you to be involved. So let's use this opportunity. And now, Caroline, you mentioned earlier about being pulled down to join a game, and that is an excellent way into our next area of interest, toys and games. Now, toys and games are so much more than just toys and games. Children learn so much through this. Now, when I tell you I've seen some serious negotiating, serious and intense negotiating when it comes to toys and games. Some very victorious for the one that is trying to do it, but sometimes also some tough lessons learned at the same time. So games are an excellent way as well for maybe those that are older, that are in a more advanced stage of their development. Is actually an excellent way as well for them to practice. So whereby they have to share something with the siblings, right? When they're younger, especially if it's a firstborn, right? They don't know what sharing means. They don't know what that is. They don't have to experience that at all in their house anyway. And so they play freely with everything. But when the next sibling comes along, then the tables turn, and then they have to actually start using negotiation tactics. They have to start, for a lot of them, they will offer an alternative toy. So they might say, oh, you play with this and I'll play with this. Or if there's something that they want, then they'll try and bring it in, or maybe they'll start playing with it a bit more because they know their sibling will come and want to play as well. So honestly, it's a really good opportunity, especially for older siblings to actually demonstrate their skills, and for younger siblings as well to build those skills and learn through the actions of their older siblings. Because, you know, sometimes just telling a child to share, like they understand it, they hear it, but then they don't see it necessarily. Like if I say share, if I'm just saying share, they don't actually see it. But if they have an older sibling or even older cousins and stuff like that, or children that they play with a lot, then there's opportunity for them to actually see that process. So Minister, you've said it's all good until the second born becomes wise. Exactly. Then that offering them one toy for the other toy doesn't work. It doesn't work. So the tactics then have to change again. And then they just have to accept that sometimes I'm not going to be able to play with the thing that I want to play with because my sibling's going to be playing with it. Or they may just go raw and just say, no, you're not playing with it. I'm playing with it now. You can play with it later. So then they have to wait. But all of these skills that are pivotal, not just in toys and games, but actually in life, right? As adults, how many of us need to negotiate for things? How many of us need to sometimes be settled in being told, no, you can't have a go. You can't have this yet, you know? And so children experiencing these things through toys and games, which we can put in our houses. It's not just a case of educational settings, but actually putting them in our houses. So one game that we have is Bible Bingo. So it's literally just a sheet and it's got loads of different pictures and they all relate to a scripture or a character in the Bible, a story in the Bible. And each time one person has to pick a card, and whatever's on the card, everyone has to put a small little Bible on top of that picture. And so with that, we've integrated it in that each person has a turn at picking the card. So our youngest has to learn that, okay, I need to wait. I need to wait until it's my turn. And our eldest as well is also learning patience because the younger siblings can't necessarily read like that just yet. So we have to read with them and take our time. They might be, you know, putting the Bible on the wrong picture at the start and things like that. So they're learning patience through that game as well. So even though sometimes it can seem long and like, oh, I don't want to play this game, but actually we're developing our children's skills in more ways than we think. So Taddy, you said they realized the controller's not turned on when playing the PlayStation. So Taddy, these are your tactics. You've been taking batteries out. You've been taking batteries out of things and not turning things on. But so it's really important for toys and games to be incorporated. But no matter the size of the area that you have, no matter if you are bringing things in and then packing them away, or you have a whole designated room or area within a room for them, then it's a really, really good way of developing thinking skills, social skills, and as well as their physical development. So their fine motor skills, where they have to do more skills like writing and putting smaller pieces together, you know, putting things over things, covering things up, revealing things as well. And their gross motor skills, because in the game they may have to jump over something, they may have to jump under something, but whatever it is, toys and games are an amazing way. So just think about the space that you have and the games as well. They don't always have to be a game that you've bought. They don't always have to be something a company has produced and then you have this amazing game. So one thing that we do in my house, we have like swimming noodles. So you know those long floats that you take to the swimming pool? So we don't take ours to the swimming pool. We use ours in our house and we definitely play games with them. So one game that we play is literally I'll sit there, and if you want a game where you can chill out a little bit, but sitting there, lifting them up and down, and then the kids have to run under them, they have to jump over them, and then they can't get trapped in the noodles. So sometimes I'll lift it up, let them run a little bit, and then trap them inside it. And so the possibilities are endless. So don't always think that it has to be a game with instructions and format and structure. Okay, you can literally use whatever you have in your home. And I guarantee to you that more often than not, children just want you to engage. Children just want you to make it fun for them. So do that in whichever way you can. And so we come on to our next area of interest. So just to recap a little bit, we've spoken about blocks, we've spoken about dramatic play, we have spoken about toys and games so far. And Joe, you've said someone said you'll pick up your child for the last time and you won't even know. I feel like we need to take a minute. I feel like we need to take a minute to just let that sink in. to let that sink in. Because when we're telling them, oh, just go and play. But in truth, it's true, isn't it? You won't even know the last time. What one sib, Selah indeed. You know, the day that all of a sudden they're going to school and they don't want you to hug them at the gate. They don't want to say bye. They want to just walk in by themselves. Things like that. Selah indeed. So let's utilize the time that we have, right? And let's be as engaged as possible. Now, one area of interest that seems to be a lot easier to facilitate in educational settings, and one that you might not want so much in the home, but nonetheless is amazing for children to express themselves and work on their fine motor skills as well, is art. So design. Now, whether you have a designated area for art, you may also bring the supplies out. Again, like I do, you can still promote your children's inspiration and creativity in so many different ways. So if you're thinking about what materials can I use for art, you may have paint, you may have glitter, it may be that you're using ink. A favorite of mine is yogurt paint. It is edible, it is not harmful, and it definitely cleans away very easily. And when I say yogurt paint, I simply mean using Greek yogurt, or you could use a yogurt of any kind that you like, that your kids like. You're not trying to encourage them to eat it, because when the real thing comes in, you don't want them putting it in their mouth. But using yogurt, so we just use Greek yogurt and then add food coloring to it, and then you've got your pinks, you've got your purples, you've got blues, you've got greens, golds, even silvers, whatever colors you want to use. Then yogurt paint is a great way, especially for younger ones who are constantly putting things in their mouth. And it's a great way for them to still be able to feel different textures, to look and see the different colors mixing. And so that is an alternative to using paint that is maybe not edible and you wouldn't really want your children putting in their mouth. But paint, glitters, inks, things like that. And in terms of the tools as well, you have your standard paintbrushes. You also have your hands as well. Kids love painting with their hands. They just like to put their hands in, spread stuff around, you know, and just really get in there. So their hands, rollers, sponges as well. It may even be that they use stamps, or they may use material like bubble wrap. It might be the inserts of the tissue as well. That's a good one. So you can just put it inside and it will create circles for them. Basically, you can use things like string as well. That's good for creating patterns. It may be that you drag the string around the paper. They may just stick it and like print it on the paper as well. And you can also use things like potatoes. So with potato, it's a potato stamp, should I say. So this, you literally cut the potato in half and then carve out the shape, carve out the shapes that you want, tending to stick to easier shapes like big triangles or maybe stars, squares, things like that. Or you may be a designer yourself and you may want to go for something a bit more complex. You might want to start doing cars or something like that, or trees. So whatever it may be, you can use potatoes to help with those stamps. And also things like leaves. So if you go on a walk maybe and you see some leaves, then leaves are a really good way for them to print. So with that, it may actually be that you have drawn a big tree and then they use their leaf to put all of the stamps on their tree. Or you may even draw some grass and then it may be a flower that they've picked or something, and you can put that in the paint and then stamp it on the paper as well. Yvonne, you said you can use cotton balls, use cars to mark make, or use broccoli as well. So yeah, thank you, Yvonne. Those are really, really good ones, especially the cotton balls, because they're very easy to pick up. They make quite big marks as well. And cars, with children, if they're used to driving the car around as well, then they'll just be used to that movement pattern. And so that's something that they can use as well to make marks. And broccoli as well. Who doesn't love some broccoli? Whether it's in your dinner plate or used for painting, some broccoli as well. So there are so many household things that we can use. We do not need to necessarily have the latest art set or have a whole range of paints and things like that. It may actually be that you use your yogurt and you use your food coloring from time to time. If you're a baker, then I'm sure you've already got some in your cupboards. And so the possibilities honestly are endless, and there's so many household things that you can actually use that you already have. And also, another thing is that actually painting doesn't always have to be sitting down at a table, or art doesn't always have to be sitting down at a table. It may be that you've rolled out a long piece of paper. So for those of you that have that wrapping paper from Christmas, or that birthday wrapping paper that you bought, and maybe you've still got loads left on the roll. You know, the underneath bit, the bit that we tend to close in on the present. That is really good. You could just roll it out, or if you've got brown paper, just roll it out, and then your children can draw. You can use paint. You could use paint on that. When I tend to get the big roller, I tend to use colouring pencils because they don't mark the carpet or anything, and they're a lot easier to manage. But things that you could do with that might be actually that you draw out a scene or something like that. So it might be that you draw the garden east of Eden, and you maybe draw some big trees and things like that, and then get the children to add things that they think might be in there, the things that are mentioned in creation as well. Then actually you can get them to draw those things, or if they've done paintings of those things, then it might be that you get them to draw a garden and then stick those things on as well. So art doesn't have to just be at a table. Another way that you could do art is using, if you've got, maybe you might not want to use your wall. You might not want to use your wall, but if you've got like a door with a lot of glass on it, then you could also stick paper up there, and that's a good way of getting children to be moving around whilst they're drawing, because they'll go up to the paper, draw, they might need another pen, so they'll go squat down and pick something else up to add to it. So that's another way. Taddy, you've said chalk on the pavement is a good one. There's ones that wash away when it rains. So yeah, that is a really good one. Chalk for the pavements. And kids, when you see the learning environments at school, kids often have that. So if you've got children in reception or even older but still in primary school or nursery, then you might notice that actually on the playgrounds there's often chalk that's been used, and it's a great way because they're also big, so they're easy to hold, and that's a great way for getting children to express themselves and to draw whatever it is that they want. So art, I'm looking at the time, I'm not sure we'll get through all of these, so we may have to roll this over to next week as well, but we'll see how we go. So art, definitely a way to help with your children's creativity and your own as well. You know, some people find their love for drawing and stuff like that once they are surrounded by little ones, and they actually, it opens a window for creativity, not just for the younger ones that are doing it, but it also makes you think as well. Okay, what can we draw next? Because sometimes you notice that, oh, my child's really interested in this particular story in the Bible, or they really like, I don't know, a particular vehicle or something like that, and so they want you to draw these things. They want you to draw chariots, and you're like, I'm not really sure how to do that. And so you have to do a bit of research, you have to do a little bit of practice, but you will get there. So it can also help us actually be creative as well, and it helps support children in terms of their creativity and their physical skills. So there is more to it, but also get creative and see what you can use in terms of the tools that are out there. See what you have in your house first. You don't have to go and buy a paintbrush. You know, just see what you have in your house. I'm sure if you've ordered something, then maybe there's some bubble wrap within the package somewhere, and so you can get that out, and that's a perfect way to start printing. So as we move on to our next area of interest, now just reminding you that the areas of interest are tools that are used within learning environments to actually facilitate development, facilitate learning. So these are structures and things that actually base and determine a lot of what goes on in primary schools and in preschool settings, in nurseries. And so they will base a lot of the areas. So for those of you that have been into those settings, you will see that maybe they have a kitchen area on one side, they have like a creative art area in another corner, they've got a corner for like building and things like that. And so you'll notice, and whilst we might not have the space to have specific designated areas all the time accessible to our children, but these are things that we can incorporate and activities that we can incorporate throughout the day and throughout the week as well, in order to help our children develop. And another key one, which not as messy as art, it's not even messy to be honest, not as messy as art, and more of a wind down focused activity is having a library. And now when I say library, sometimes we think, oh, I need a massive place where I can just store books and put loads of them, stack them high, put them on a shelf, you know. Sometimes that's how we feel when we hear libraries, but it may be a whole library that you have. It may be a reading corner that you have. You may just have one shelf, or you may just have a few books piled on top of each other. But first of all, storing your books in a way that is firstly visible to your children is important, and in a way that is easily accessible to them as well is really important, because then they can engage with them more independently, and they can just go and walk up to it and take a book and then start looking at it, whether they're actually reading the words or whether they're still using the pictures to help tell the story. But actually making them visible and accessible really encourages their independent engagement. And with that being said, it doesn't have to be a whole bookshelf stacked with books. It may be that you have a few books out and you've put them in a way that they can see them all and they can access them all very, very easily. Now, sometimes it's nice for the children to be actually able to see the front pages of the books as well. So that can help encourage children to read them. Or it may and that may be on like a flat bookshelf on the wall, or a single shelf, something on the wall. Or if they are stacked or sort of in a pile, just laying them out in a way where the children can see them so that they are visible and more accessible, so they can just go up and pick them up and read them for themselves. But regardless, however they are stored, they're making sure that there is a space where children can focus. Now, you may not be able to have maybe like a separate like little bean bag in the corner or something like that, but it's really important when children are showing a desire to read, right? Because when they get older, we're going to be expecting them to read their books for school. We're going to be expecting them to read their Bibles. We're going to be expecting them to do like look into stuff, maybe do some research or some kind if they need to find stuff out for school. But if we're not facilitating an environment when they're younger to encourage that, then we can't expect that is going to be the case when they get older. You know, if you notice that your child is reading and they want to read, then it might just be for those 5 minutes, because they're not going to necessarily sit there and read for an hour, right? For those 5 minutes, you could lower the volume on the TV. You could even turn the TV off. You could grab a book yourself and read as well. But creating a space where they can actually focus and relax and enjoy reading a book. They may want one book, they may want 5. Regardless, it is really important that they have that space to do that. And that if you really want your child to read when they're older, now is the time to actually encourage them and to show them as well that, okay, we read. Whether you're reading with them, they're seeing you read as well, whichever way. And like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you've got a whole separate space and a little reading corner and you've put posters up, or that say my reading corner and things like that. That might not be the case, and that might not be possible. But like one thing we do in my house is we have book club, right? And we even have a little song. Don't worry, it's okay. I won't share that with you. But we even have a little song, and we put the blanket. We just get any blanket, put it on the floor. We get the cushions on top. The kids will get their books that they want to read, and we will all just sit there and read. And they love it. They love it. They like look forward to us doing it. And whilst we still read throughout the day, book club is like a time where they've chosen their books. They know we're all going to sit down. We're going to read in funny voices. I'm going to ask them questions and things like that. So whilst you may not have a whole library, you might not be able to have a whole reading corner, do what you can. Get the blanket on the floor and get the pillows out and just sit and read, and let it be a real time that they can enjoy. So then it will help develop their enjoyment for reading as well. And within that, having a range of genres as well will really help your little ones to be exposed to new words and new combinations of words. It will help develop their fluency, their rhythm and their expression. So you may have a lot of rhyming books. You may have some factual books as well. It may be that you're reading straight Bible stories, you know, or it may be that you're reading about the lives of important or like pivotal Christian men and women that have done stuff for the faith. You know, regardless of what it is, they all really help with their expression and their understanding of language, and also helps them to explore different topics. So it broadens their minds in terms of what they are exposed to in different ways. So making sure that they're sort of age appropriate. You want to also push your children as well. So if you know that they can move on to a more complex book, but actually they're still quite young. Go for it. Go for it. I'm telling you. Go for it. You'll be surprised at how much they pick up. Because remember, children are like sponges. They are learning in every environment that they are in. So it is a great way to do that. And unfortunately, I am looking at the time. Good evening, Ben, Nigel, and Maria Chumi. Thank you for joining us this evening. But I am out of time today. But we have been looking at childhood development key tools for learning. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for your contributions as well. Go and have a look back at the chat, because we had some amazing contributions in terms of examples and things that adults can do and you can do with your children or your nieces, your nephews. If you are an educator, if you might work in a school, you might teach at Sunday school. Whatever it may be, there have been some amazing contributions and examples of how people can further develop the interest areas that we have gone through. So whether your house is a nursery or not, and whether you have the space for a whole playroom, or like myself, you're getting the resources in and out, the opportunities for us to help our children thrive are endless, and there is so much we can do. So thank you all for joining us. We will be touching base back on this because there is still plenty more to discuss next week. So make sure you tune in, and I will see you back here, same time, same place on Fire Radio for Academic Crossroads again next week. So thank you all for tuning in, and stay tuned because Youth Beat is up next.
You have been listening to Academic Crossroads. Join us same time next week for more academic top tips with your host, Dr. Leanne J. Adeyemi. Fire Radio.
Fire burning in my soul. Fire burning in my soul. Anytime, anywhere.
When it's hard to focus, Lord, with many voices speaking, when days are harder than the rest, I'll always keep my eyes on you. I know you do not lie, 'cause in and out of season, you hold my hand and tell me that I just need to remember the child of who I am. I am a child of light, and I will walk as light. In the word it is written, so I know who I am, and I will keep I will count on you to help me walk on water and help me shut out any voice that seeks to take my gaze from you. Daddy, you never fail me, and anytime I'm weary, you hold my hand and tell me that I just need to remember the child of who I am. I am a child of light, so I will walk as light. In the word it is written, so I know who I am, and I will keep my gaze on the one who calls me he, the one who calls me he, the one who calls me he, the one who calls me he. I see what you show me, I hear what you want me to. I'm not confused and life's a journey. My father is a good shepherd. I see what you show me, I go where you lead me. I am led, I am kept, I am yours. So I will always remember the child of who I am, and I will keep my gaze on the one who calls me his. I will always remember the child of who I am, and I will keep my gaze on the one who calls me his.